Hi, my name is Daniel Volk, and this is Beyondsoft's presentation of using clustering analysis in PowerBI. This case study's purpose is to demonstrate a simple application of clustering using real-world data. To achieve this, the study uses S&P 500 price trend data to group stocks into similarly trending clusters. The study also shows how cluster data can easily be imported to Microsoft's Power BI for quick visualizations and instant analysis. For context, clustering is an unsupervised method of grouping data by similarity. It is often used to find underlying commonalities among seemingly unrelated observations. It is also frequently used in dimensionality reduction to help limit the amount of levels in a factorized variable. While this is simply a case study and not intended for use in investment decisions, it is easy to see how one might use this technique to build a diverse, high-performing stock portfolio. For this analysis, S&P 500 historical stock prices going back to January 2015 were obtained through Yahoo Finance and imported into Python. Once in Python, the trends were normalized so they fit on the same axis, and then clustered into 6 distinct groups using a k-means clustering algorithm. Inertia began to converge around 6 to 7 clusters. However, the silhouette metric in Python was used to show that the distinctness of clusters was significantly better with 6 clusters than with 7. Additionally, k-nearest neighbors was used to determine the 10 nearest neighbors of any individual stock, as well as the Euclidean distance between the various stocks. This first section provides a high-level view of S&P 500 stock trends for the 489 stocks that had data for the full duration of January 2015 through March of 2016. The line chart shows all stocks' normalized close values trended over time and illustrates the tremendous inherent variability within stock market data. Without having access to clustering algorithms, a simple way to group stocks might be to choose stocks with similar industries or geographic locations. When we look at the bottom right here, this donut chart, we can select the information technology sector. And while this subsets are grouped to only the information technology sector, we are seeing still a tremendous amount of variability and randomness when it comes to how stocks are trending within that sector. We can also take a look at the 64 countries that have a headquarters in California. And again, we see fairly similar trends that we saw with the information technology sector, where we are looking at a subset, but we're not gleaning a whole lot more information out of looking at this subset. This point can further be illustrated on the next sheet, which breaks out stocks by their individual industries. From this chart, you can see some potential trends within various industries, such as the energy sector, which seems to be trending high to low, and consumer staples, which seems to be trending low to high. However, there remains a considerable amount of variability within all the industries, especially information technology, down here, and the consumer discretionary group up here. The third sheet illustrates the insights we can glean from clustering. On this page, we can see much more distinct groupings of stocks by trend. You can see the clusters are labeled 0 through 5. There are 6 clusters, and cluster 1 trends mostly in an upward direction. Meanwhile, cluster 3 trends mostly in a downward direction. Cluster 0 trends mostly up, then down. Cluster 2 trends mostly down, then up. You can use the bar chart on the right, as well as the tree map below, to help analyze each cluster individually. Let's take a look at cluster number 1. Cluster number 1 is our highest performing cluster, and it trends mostly from low to high over the duration of our study. If we look at the table below, we can cherry pick certain stocks out of here that we might be interested in investing in. For instance, we might take Activision, we might take AGL Resources, and we might take Assurant Incorporated. These are 3 different industries, but in each industry these are high-performing stocks, all trending low to high over the course of our analysis. The final page of our report uses something called nearest neighbors to find the 10 closest stocks to one individual stock. In this case, our stock in question is Activision, and it's trended fairly well over the course of our study. As you can see, obviously the closest trending stock to Activision is itself Activision. However, the next closest is Amazon.com, and if we are to bring in closest neighbor number 1 here, we'll see that Amazon.com pops up into our chart, and it's trended very similarly with Activision over time. We can take a look at the next closest neighbor, which in this case is Nike. Nike has a Euclidean distance of 5.9 in comparison to Amazon's 4.2. And it's interesting that Nike is so close because it's not within the same industry as Activision. However, when we bring it into the chart, you can see that it does trend fairly similarly over time. Not quite as close to Activision as Amazon, but still a pretty good match. This highlights one of the most useful aspects of nearest neighbors modeling. We may really appreciate how Activision has trended over time, and we want to identify similar stocks, but we also want to diversify across industry. Nike is a great example of a stock that is similar enough to our stock of choice without being within the same industry. This case study displays not only the incredibly effective means by which clustering can be used to group data, it also shows how PowerBI reporting can be used to quickly navigate through the final analytical output. The study acts as a proof of concept for how one might identify high-performing stocks across industries and sectors. The different clusters could be used as a means to hedge against one another so investors don't over-index on high-performing clusters. Ultimately, other factors such as dividends should be considered when choosing stocks, but clustering may prove to be an effective method for analyzing close price trends. Thanks for watching. This has been a presentation of Beyondsoft.